Okay, so back in 1997, two historians, William Strauss and Neil Howe, published this book with a pretty radical theory about the rhythm of history. It's called The Fourth Turning, an American Prophecy. And it all kicks off with a question that, honestly, feels more relevant today than ever before. And that question is this: why does it feel like the country is just coming apart at the seams? It's a question a lot of us are probably asking ourselves right now. And wow, they really just nail this feeling with this quote, don't they? The sense that even with all our modern comforts, there's this deep, nagging anxiety that something is just fundamentally broken, like a kind of decay from the inside out. But here's the twist. The authors argue that this feeling of unraveling, it's not unique to us. In fact, they say it's a recurring pattern, a predictable part of a much, much bigger cycle. I mean, just look at this. 3 times before in American history, this exact same mood has taken over. You had it in the 1760s, again in the 1850s, and then again in the 1920s. And every single time, this period of feeling like society was coming undone was followed by a massive, society-shattering crisis. And that's the crucial pattern they identified. You get an era of intense individualism and weakening institutions, what they call an unraveling, and it is always followed by a monumental crisis that basically reboots the entire nation. So this brings us to the central question of the whole book. Are these just a string of cosmic coincidences? Or is there actually a predictable rhythm to history, a pattern that maybe we've just forgotten how to see? Well, according to Strauss and Howe, the answer is a resounding yes, there is a rhythm. And the basic unit of that rhythm is a concept the ancient Romans called the saeculum. Just think of it as one full cycle of history, lasting about as long as a person lives a good long life. And each saeculum, this big cycle, is made up of 4 turnings, which are basically the seasons of history. It starts with a high, which is like spring. It's that post-crisis era where everyone pulls together and institutions are strong. Then comes an awakening, like summer, a time of passionate rebellion and cultural upheaval. That's followed by an unraveling, our autumn, where individualism takes over and the social fabric starts to fray. And it all ends with a fourth turning, a brutal winter of crisis that tears down the old world to make way for the new. Okay, so if history really moves in seasons, what's, the engine? What's pushing society from spring to summer to fall to winter? Well, the theory says it's not economics and it's not politics. It's us. It's generations. Strauss and Howe argue there are these 4 types of generations that just keep showing up over and over again. You have prophets, like the boomers, born after a crisis, who grow up to be visionary leaders. Then you have nomads, like Gen X, born during a cultural awakening, who become these pragmatic survivors. After them come the heroes, like millennials, born during an unraveling, who become the team-oriented builders. And finally, the artists, like the silent generation, born during a crisis, who become the thoughtful refiners of the new world. And the way it works is actually pretty simple. As each of these different generational archetypes gets older, their collective personalities and priorities literally change the national mood. And that's what pushes society into the next season. So in a way, history creates the generations, and then the generations turn around and create history. Now this is where things get really wild. Using this whole framework, the authors didn't just look backward. Nope. Back in 1997, they made a very, very specific and kind of startling prediction about our future. Here's what they wrote: that America was in its autumn, a third turning, an unraveling that would last until about the middle of the next decade. And right around the year 2005, a new fourth turning, a new era of crisis, a new winter was going to begin. They predicted it would all kick off with some kind of sudden spark. And after that spark, the whole public mood would change on a dime. Trust in institutions would just implode. And the old way of doing things would start to completely fall apart. And they were clear this wouldn't be some small thing. They were talking about a period of extreme stress, where the stakes would be so incredibly high that the very survival of the nation would feel like it was hanging in the balance. And this really lays out the 2 stark paths that open up during a fourth turning. The risk is just immense: total catastrophe, civil breakdown, maybe even authoritarianism. But the opportunity is equally huge: the chance to forge a totally new consensus and kick off a new golden age. But, and this is super important to understand,
The theory is not fate. It doesn't say what will happen. It just says when a period of maximum danger and maximum opportunity is going to show up. The actual outcome? Well, that's not foretold. That's up to us.
When you really boil it all down, this whole theory is challenging the way most of us are taught to think about time itself. We tend to see history as a straight line moving forward, always progressing, where the past is, well, in the past. This theory asks us to bring back a much more ancient idea, that time is a cycle, like the seasons, and the patterns of the past are always coming back around. The authors use this incredible quote from a playwright, Arthur Wing Pernero, and it just perfectly sums up the whole idea. The future is only the past again, entered through another gate. The challenges we face might feel brand new, but the human drama, that seasonal rhythm, is as old as time. And so that leaves us with the one final question that really matters, doesn't it? If this theory about historical seasons is even close to being right, if the rhythm of the past really does echo in our present, then where on the cycle are we today? What season are we living through right now?